All right, biggest upsets so far in free agency in honor of March Madness. Charean, give me one.
I'm going to go with the Patriots, Mike. I mean, we knew they had a lot of money, right? I think they were third entering free agency with the most money, but I didn't think they would spend quite like they've spent. And I read today, and I read somewhere, I think it was on Bleacher Report, that they've spent the second most money in free agency in the history of free agency. And they've just signed players left and right. And to get the two tight ends, Jonnu Smith, and then to come back the next day and get Hunter Henry was really a surprise. But just surprised me the approach they took. They've been one of the oldest rosters in the NFL over the last few seasons. They're going to be one of the oldest rosters in the NFL this season, too. But it also tells you, Mike, that they have swung and missed on some of those draft picks. They've traded down a lot. They've drafted low, and they haven't drafted real well, which is why they've had to go out in free agency. Doesn't work very often. Worked for the Bucs last year. We'll see if it works for the Patriots this year.
And, Charean, something occurred to me yesterday when Sims and I were talking about this. It's not just failure to draft well. It's failure to develop young players.
That's
and I
right.
wonder how much impatience shines through with Belichick when you've got these guys who don't know where the hell they're supposed to be, what the hell they're supposed to do, how the hell they're supposed to do it. Does he have limited patience for guys who just don't have the light come on? And does he gravitate toward veterans who know what they're supposed to do? And I could see Bill, what a shock. Bill Belichick is a guy who doesn't have a lot of patience for dumb. All you have to do is watch one of his press conferences, and you come to the conclusion quickly. He's got no patience whatsoever for people who don't know what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it. And he doesn't want to have to tell you what to do. He'd rather have someone who gets it. And I think he comes to quick judgments with these young players as to whether or not they actually get it. I was surprised by, and we were on the air the other day when this happened, Peter King and I on PFT PM, Tyrod Taylor to Houston, because that was, and this was before even, I think, the first of the Deshaun Watson assault allegations. But the Tyrod Taylor to Houston move told me that the Texans recognized they needed to do something. It was the first acknowledgement that they were accepting the predicament they were in. Whether it meant they were going to trade Deshaun Watson or use Tyrod Taylor as the backup or the guy who takes over if Deshaun Watson doesn't show up. And now he may be the guy who ends up playing because Deshaun Watson's on the commissioner exempt list, but which is a possibility as this thing continues to unfold. That surprised me. That surprised me because it was the first acknowledgement that the Texans understand the mess that they're in.
Yeah, I think it spoke the most, more than any press conference that they've held, Mike, that they are looking to the possibility of not having Deshaun Watson when they start the season. Whether it's a holdout or whether they trade him or however this thing plays out, they may not have him this season, and they know that, and they're going with a bridge quarterback if they don't have him in Tyrod Taylor, which we know he's been good at that role, right? We saw it with Baker Mayfield and Cleveland and with Justin Herbert and with the Chargers, and he's been in several of those situations throughout the years and has handled that very well, Mike.
Give me another one that you would call an upset for the first few days of free agency.
Well, I think they've had the best offseason of any team, and that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I love when you can keep your own free agents. You know what you have in them, and you're able to keep your own. I didn't think they'd be able to do it. I didn't think they would be able to keep Shaq Barrett and Chris Godwin, much less Gronkowski, Ryan Suckup, Levante David. They've done it. They've put the band back together. And even if they don't get Leonard Fournette or AB back, which we think they could get those two guys back because we haven't heard anything about them on the free agent market, even if they don't get those guys back, it's been a highly successful offseason for the Buccaneers. And if I'm going to Vegas, I'm putting my money down on them to win another Super Bowl, Mike.
Yeah, you know, another topic that came up the other day, Peter said, hey, just because you're keeping these guys together doesn't mean that you're going to win another championship. I mean, there hasn't been a repeat since the 2003-2004 Patriots. But from my perspective, the key guy who's back is Tom Brady. And even if they had some turnover with some of these guys, Brady will do what he has to do to get everyone on the same page, because for him, it's not about winning number 2. It's about winning number 8. It becomes easier if you have the continuity. You don't have to break in new personalities. But I also do think there is value. And now, there's more value, I think, with another team than there would be with these Buccaneers. There's value in finding a veteran player who doesn't have a ring, who wants one, because that can give you that extra little kick, that extra little thing to avoid complacency, Charean. And I yesterday, and I'll tie this together. My other surprise was A.J. Green to the Cardinals, because that slams the door on, I think, Larry Fitzgerald returning to the Cardinals, because you're going to have 4 receivers who don't play special teams on game day if you've got Fitzgerald on the roster with Green and Christian Kirk and DeAndre Hopkins, and you got too much money tied up in your receiver room. If you're giving Green up to $8.5 million, what are you going to pay Larry Fitzgerald? You paid him $11 million last year. So what if Larry Fitzgerald decides to go play for the Buccaneers for a year and take the Antonio Brown spot on the depth chart, and they let Brown go somewhere else? That would be something. You get a guy out there with the Man of the Year patch on his jersey, a guy with the gravitas that Larry Fitzgerald has, and you add that burning desire he has. And the clue for me was when he said in November, if the Cardinals win the Super Bowl, he'll retire. And we're like, well, you're going to play forever then. And I know the Cardinals are trying, but they're not a Super Bowl contender. But to me, that was the acknowledgement implicit by Fitzgerald that maybe he does one final year with a team that is a Super Bowl contender. It's not like he's going to burn bridges in Arizona. He's spent more than enough time in Arizona. I can't imagine a single Cardinals fan being mad at him. And Fitzgerald finished his career with a team like the Chiefs or the Buccaneers.
Yeah, it surprised me too, Mike, and I had that on my list of surprises when we started making the list, because it did signal the end of Larry Fitzgerald in Arizona. Now, maybe he's already told him he's going to retire, but that doesn't also preclude him from unretiring and coming back and going to the Buccaneers at some point, say after training camp or whatever. I think the Bucs are going to be just like they were last year. They're going to add some of these guys before the season starts into training camp and the first week of the season, like they did this past year, because they're going to want to play at Tampa. They're going to want to try to win a Super Bowl, and they know Tom Brady knows how to do that better than anyone else in the league, Mike.
Yeah, and as more and more of these guys who have been cut or who have become free agents don't get what they thought they were going to get, that's when it becomes attractive to go chase a ring.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.